ago, it might have been last week, my ladies and I over Zoom made these cards. Okay, and ordinarily after the session on Zoom, I write up the instructions, photograph it and pop that on my blog. My ladies can then download and make more at their leisure. I've struggled with this one. My trying to write instructions is probably one of the hardest things a crafter could have to do. You can go ahead and do the project, no problem, but putting it into words without pictures is pretty difficult. So I've abandoned it for this one, and I've opted instead to make a video. So I've run out of this particular paper. It came from the Flowers for Every Season 6x6 DSP pack. I've opted for this sheet instead. So I'm going to recreate this style of card. I'll just show you. It comes out like that, the panel. Okay, slides in. This one again slides in. The only difference really is the placement of the DSP on the inside panel. I did it further down. And also the sentiment. So cherished friend, cherished friend. This one is stamped and in the Just Jade using the Stampin' Right marker actually. Whereas this one has been stamped in Versamark and embossed in white embossing powder onto the Just Jade cardstock and freehand cut or fussy cut. Okay, so making the actual folder, I'm going to go work with Misty Moonlight, a new in colour. So this is the DSP. I'll pop that to one side for later. I will bring in my trimmer and make sure it's positioned so you can see it. There we go. And a sheet, an A4 sheet of Misty Moonlight cardstock. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is place this into my trimmer, portrait format. So it's tall and skinny. That's put the way the portrait format. We're lining it up 14.8 centimeters, and we're going to cut. So that's the dark blade on the stamping trimmer that cuts. This is excess. Pop it to one side. We'll use it later. We're now going to rotate to landscape. Okay, so this is landscape format. The first position is 10.5 centimeters. Now at this point we're switching blades. So as I said, the dark blade is the cutting blade. We're going to use the pale blade. This is the score blade. So at 10.5 centimeters, you're going to score. So I'm just going to run up and down a couple of times, and that gives us an indent into the paper. Now moving my cardstock along to 21 centimeters. Okay, make sure when you're using the trimmer, you're always nice and flush up to this top edge. Keeps everything square. This is referred to as well also as the fence. So if somebody tells you to put your card up to the fence, that's what they mean. Again, we're using the score blade, and I'm running up and down a couple of times just to get that indent. I'm going to rotate back to portrait. I want the 10.5 section at the top. So I'm taking it this way. I want to make a mark 4 centimeters up from this bottom edge. So obviously it was 14.8. Deduct the 4. I want to line it up to 10.8. Okay, so this top left corner needs to be at 10.8 centimeters. With the score blade again, we're just going to run it up and down to make a notch, a little dimple dot in the top edge of our cardstock. We'll now rotate again to bring this side with the dimple down to the right. I'm going to bring it further down in the track. So this groove is where your blade or your score tool runs. I'm going to hold that there and rotate up so that I've got the top of this score line. So once the top of the score line is in the track and your dimple dot is in the track, there we go, that's it. I'm using the dark blade to cut, and I'm cutting away that triangle. Again, pop that to one side, we'll use it later. We're now going to bring it back to portrait, but we want a mark up here. So now what we're going to do is line it up to 5.6 centimeters. And again, with the pale blade, the score blade, we're making another little dimple dot. And this time we're going to cut from this point to this point. So I'm going to rotate my cardstock again. I'm bringing the top, or the bottom should I say now, of that score line, and I've got the dimple dot just here, and they're both lined up in that track. And again, dark blade cuts away. Okay, so that we're going to remove that piece there. So this is what you're left with. At this point, pop my trimmer down a second and bring in my bone folder. All I'm going to do is flip it over. The portion, sorry, on the right hand side, fold that over, make sure it's level at the bottom, burnish up the side. Now this doesn't meet the score line, but that's okay because of the way the difference in the height here and here. Very cleverly, when we fold this side over, the V meets in the middle. Okay, so I did the hard work bit, so I could just give you the measurements. So that is your folder. So if I just bring back, you can see that's the folder that we've made, okay, for this piece to sit inside. So rather than glue this together straight away, we're going to cut the DSP now to fit onto it. So back comes the 6x6 DSP, and back comes my trimmer. So the first cut you're going to make, so if you have an orientation, if it has an actual pattern direction, make sure it's facing you correctly at this point. This one's all a bit higgledy-piggledy, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to cut at 10 centimetres. So dark blade, 10 centimetres, and I've cut straight down. I'm now going to bring in the card. Okay, so I'm covering this front section. Now I find it easier just to open my card out again and lay it. So this piece of DSP is going to sit on that front section, and I'm currently eyeballing that I've got an equal margin down the left, across the bottom, and up the right side. Using a ruler, or if you haven't got a ruler, you can even use one of your pieces of cardstock that you cut away. That would be fine. I will just use a ruler though, it's a smidge easier for me. I am going to position my ruler so that I can see a tiny amount of the blue cardstock at this point, just here, and at this point up here. Now I'm going to draw a line, okay, and what's going to happen is I'm going to cut that line away. So I'm now going to bring that paper, oops-a-daisy, into my trimmer, but I want the pen line, I've done it in pen so that you guys can see, I want that to be on the right hand side of the track, so still on the dark brown area of the trimmer, but just to the right. So when I go up now with my blade, I've cut the line off. The line is here, okay, and there is my piece. Now if I bring that back, that will fit in there, and I've got the same amount of border now on the diagonal as well as the verticals and horizontals. Okay, so that is how you do that. I'm going to glue it in place primarily so I don't pick up the wrong piece and cut it again or use it. So I'm just going to use the Tombow. There we go, just a small, doesn't need an awful lot, and position that. There we go, lovely. Now then, just to warn you, you may still be able to see a notch right on the very right hand edge of this cardstock. Do not worry about that. That's where this comes in. Okay, this lovely twine will cover that bit shortly. Okay, so that's the front. So if I fold this back up, we've covered the front. Now we want to cover this panel here, but thinking about it, we don't need to worry about going too far beyond that line this way because it's not going to be seen. So as it happens, this piece that you have just cut if we now were to position this like that, so let me show you. So that's the piece we've cut off. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is cut off that line that I drew on earlier. So I'm bringing this now back onto the trimmer and I'm just going to cut it off. Okay, so the line that I drew is on that bit. I've now got a nice clean edge. Okay, I might actually need to go just a smidge more. Now obviously if you've done it in pencil, you don't need to do this, you could just rub it out. If you're good at eyeballing things, you might not need to draw the line at all anyway. I've just got a tiny little, tiny piece there that I'm not happy with, so I've snipped that away. Okay, so let's go again. So originally I cut that from there. So this point at the bottom right, I am going to put my, hold on to it there, and I'm going to turn it so it's now at the top right. And by magic, you might need to take a smidge more off it. But you see how, if I open it up again, you'll get a better view because you've not got blue on blue. You see how that fits? If I bring that down a little bit, it should fit pretty much. That my border is equal there and equal here. I'm a little bit off wonk. So I am just going to take a tiny slither off this side. And by doing that, and cutting it from the bottom up, I should now have a lovely straight piece that just happens to fit bang on. Okay, perfect. But I'm just going to cut away because I don't need this excess at the bottom, so I'm just going to chop that off, and that piece I'm going to glue in. Okay, so up I go, down just across the bottom, blah 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 blah, and without getting glue everywhere, she hopes it should go 1 2 3 just like that. Don't you love it when a plan comes together? Okie, so I can now put my folder together because I've got my two pieces covered. And the way that we do this, I'll move the trimmer out the way, give us a better view. There's a new gadget called Stampin' Seal. So the Stampin' Seal and the Stampin' Seal Plus. This bad boy is wonderful for boxes. So in place of the red line tape, or sometimes you get a polyester tape that's super sticky, that's what you'd use that one for. This is the one that's the new version of our snail. So you pull off the cap. It's got a sort of a mattified area where you can put your thumb. I'm dragging the adhesive just across the middle of the bottom section, and I'm sticking that panel down to it. Now I've still got a bit of adhesive here, so I'm just going across the bottom section again. She says it won't run. There we go. Oh no! What happened? Oh, I lost it. So if you lose it like that, just roll the wheel forwards, and that's it. So now I'm just going to lift it. I'm going to lift it off straight up, and then it cuts on and it's still on the wheel to go again. Just going to take that little bobble off. But this now closes over just like that. Okay, so that is your covered folder. At this point, this is where when I added the twine. So I'm just, of course I haven't got it out because that would mean me being organised. And anybody that knows me well knows that I find that a little bit challenging. Here we go. So, flowers for every season ribbon combo pack. Da, da, da. Lovely, lovely ribbon combo. It's a trio actually. So what I do now is I'm going to put a little bit of Stampin' Seal just here. And I'm just going to stick the end of my twine just here about 1 inch in. And I'm going to wrap now around and around and around. So I've got 3 wraps effectively. I'm going to snip this just there. And then just to hold that in place, it's actually on the little bit of adhesive that I put there, but I will just use a little tiny piece of tear and tape just over those joins. Okay, and I'm going to leave that like that for now, because those joins are going to be hidden by this. Okay, the insert, so the panel that goes inside, that's what we're going to work on next. So bringing in some Just Jade cardstock. Gosh, my work surface is a mess already. And my trusty trimmer. Okay, the piece that you need to cut here needs to be 10 centimeters wide, like so, by 13.5 centimeters, like so. And on top of this, we're going to have a piece of Whisper White. So I'll grab, that looks okay, that looks fairly clean. And this, I want it to be 9.5 centimeters by 13 centimeters. Just like that. Right then. So those are my two pieces that I'm going to layer up. Now then, from the remnant, let's just have a look how long this is. You know what? This is 6.2 centimeters, so that's ideal. Because of the punch we're about to use, and that's this punch here, totally forgotten its name right now, but it goes with the lovely U stamp sets in a bundle. The punch troughs are 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and 1 inch. So I'm going to cut this strip, and I just want a 1 inch strip. Now I'm taking this, so I've got a longer fence to make sure it's 90 degrees. I'm coming and measuring it up beyond the cut line, and I'm just cutting 1 inch. So that's what I need. Pop my trimmer away, and I'm just going to, oh no, I did need my trimmer. I knew I'd forget something. So the first thing I'm going to do is score a line halfway. Now I think just for ease, if I trim this down so it's exactly 6 centimeters, which I've literally just taken off a tiny piece, I've got exactly 6 centimeters. So now I'm going to go at 3 centimeters, and I'm going to score. So again, the light blade, I'm just scoring that so it's in half. Da, 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 just like that. Now I can get rid of the trimmer. So when you come to use this punch, I'm using the top section, so it's got the nice flat edge. I'm going into the inch channel, but sometimes when you put it in, it butts up, so it's easier to go in at an angle and slide it in, then find the channel, the groove, and push that in. Now I also flip over because I want to eyeball the back just to make sure that it's exactly square. I'm punching that away, and I'm taking out the tab. Now on that one, I just managed to hold it with my finger. I know that when I come to punch the other side, I'm going to lose this end. So there is a trick, and the trick involves a post-it note or sticky note. So I'm taking, you can see I've got my little scribbles on here with my measurements. I'm taking a strip, the sticky is just here, and I'm applying it in the middle of my tab. This piece again goes in at an angle, push it all the way, but you've also got, let's have a look, push that in, this post-it note piece to keep an eye. Now you see this is sometimes happens, this is why we turn it over, because I want to make sure that when I punch it's exactly square. So there it is, and I'm punching away, and now I can pull out my tab. Alrighty, so that's that little piece done. Now the next step, I'm really sorry, this has retired. It's a 1/8 of an inch handheld hole punch. Now I shouldn't say this, there are other brands on the market beginning with and ending skz that do them. You can also use a regular household hole punch. You'll just get a larger hole. So all I'm doing is just in the center, a little below center, just there. I'm just going to punch a hole through. Okay, so that's punched through both layers of that little tab. Got that? Fabulous. So before we assemble this inner piece, you'll see, if I bring back my original, on this one, I've actually embellished this white panel with some extra pieces of the DSP. Now, we've still got this strip left, which is where these pieces came from on this pattern of paper. So we could do a similar thing. And all I would do is choose a corner, perhaps, and locate a flower that I like the look of. So, oh, I don't know. I could actually go around this cluster. So if I come in here and just ever so quickly whiz round this with my scissors and just make a bit of a fussy cut bloom. I'm going to go up and in. And don't worry if you get to the point where you think, oh no, the next flower's overlapped it and I don't want to keep the whole thing in. You can actually cut and make up, like I'm doing now, your own petals. So I'm just getting rid of that blue flower that's above it just by chopping in. I'll show you when I've finished. Then coming out, there we go. And coming down on that little bit there and around that corner. Okay, so you can see I have actually left some of that flower in that paper, but that just gives me a corner section to embellish my insert piece with. So I'll just glue that on, and what you can then do is go ahead and cut another piece, maybe, if you so desire. Okay, so I'm just going to glue that on so you can see how I did that. Okay, pop another piece up here like I have done on this one if you so wish, but I'm not going to just now. Okay, I'm going to continue with the assembly of this. So you've got your white piece, oopsie daisy, and you've got your Just Jade piece. I've just realised I must have greasy fingers. I think it's from the tacos that we've just had for dinner. So, oh, Just Jade on Just Jade, a little bit difficult. So I'll come over here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to glue my white panel. So if you wanted to do some stamping at this point, stamp first before you glue your layers together, just in case of hiccups, shall we say? Okay, it's a lot easier to just replace a panel of white than it is to have to rebuild the whole thing. So those are my two pieces and they're glued together. Now I'm going to put my tab back on, and because I've gone through 2 layers. When I did this originally, I went through 2 layers at the same time, so I know that that's comfortable for this hole punch. By positioning my tab and finding that same hole, I am still only going through 2 layers because I've already got a hole at the top and a hole at the bottom. Okay, so that's how I do that. I'm just going to glue my front tab down. I'll then flip that over and glue the back tab. You could have actually glued it on first. It really wouldn't matter. So that's how we do that. Pop some ribbon through here. So again, this is still the flowers for every season. So I'm just going to get 10 centimeters is fine. Oh, I will just change and use my ribbon snips that are specifically for fabric and ribbon. And at this point, to get this through that hole, I'm going to fold to a point. Okay, and if needed, fold it again just to get that point. Pop it through. There we go. And now I'm just going to twist it to unflatten, as it were, and bring both ends so that they come up and meet like that. Then I'm going to introduce another piece of twine. Okay, so I've got my twine and I'm going to hook it underneath my ribbon. And at this point, it's so much easier if you anchor this down So I'm going to use a punch and lay that. So I'm hoping you can still see. I've got my ribbon here, and I'm just going to make a bow around those two pieces. So I'm going to pull my first knot close. Once I've got that bit done, I can take the weight off because I've got the first part done. Little bunny ear, wrap that round, pull it through. Oops, I've lost it. There we go. Give it a wiggle. Technical term that, give it a wiggle. Oops. So tug and tug until I'm happy. There we are. Then with my ribbon snips, I'm just going to take my ribbon from the edge to the top middle. And then the same for the other side, but I find it easy to do it upside down. So I'll come upside down and go from the top out to the edge. Okay. Then trim off that and that bit because it's just frayed a bit more than I would like. And there is my panel. You could have had a little bit longer on the ribbon if you'd have liked. This panel is then where you do all your doodling and your thank yous, etc., or your happy birthdays, and you can slide that in there. Okay, the final part is the embellishment. I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to show you how I did it. Okay, so it's 2 layers, and this is from the Hippo and Friends dies. I'm sure, yeah, it's Hippo and Friends. My white layer I embossed with the brick and mortar folder. I then, again, from the excess of my paper, found a flower pattern, a little section that I liked, and then I did my sentiment. So this one's Cherished Friend. So again, on a piece of the scrap, so one of your triangles perhaps, you can stamp it in Versamark, pop white embossing powder over it, and then fussy cut round it. Alternatively, on a little piece of the white, you could stamp it in either the Just Jade or the Misty Moonlight colour. Okay, so I'll bring that one back in as well. It's just lurking here. So there's it stamped, and that's it embossed. I finished off then just with a couple of the in colour enamels, and that is how we do it. Okay, so I do hope that the video was a little bit more straightforward than my sometimes garbled instructions when I try and type them. But so once that's got an embellishment on, it will be beautiful. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope I haven't gone too quickly. And if you like this project, it's on YouTube, so please give me a thumbs up. If you'd like more information on my parcels, please pop onto the blog. It's all the W's, stampinsues.blogspot.com. Okay, that's it for tonight. Take care. Bye bye.